أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another session of Weekly Iman Booster Series by ICNA Sisters. In continuation to our previous talks, I wanted to create an awareness in our minds and how Shaitan cleverly works with our intentions or with our minds when it comes to different aspects in our life. Many times we may be doing a certain act or conducting a certain ritual in which we feel it is innocent or harmless or just sheer fun. And there's no harm in having fun, right? And there's no harm in entertaining ourselves and having some leisure in our lives. Let's take the example of the way we conduct some of our gatherings. Culturally, our weddings are an aspect of fun in our life. We want to go all out in our weddings because there's no harm in doing that, right? So what we tend to do is we will have these huge, extravagant gatherings. We will have many clothes that are extremely expensive made. We'll be spending $3,000 to $4,000 on just decorating the hall and decorating the stage and following a certain color pattern because that fits within a certain theme that we want with that gathering. And we're thinking everyone else does it. Why is there harm in doing this? Or if a child of ours has graduated from high school or bachelor's and master's, now we want to entertain ourselves or we want to appreciate all the hard work that our child has done. So we think that we are being harmless in the fact that we can conduct a huge gathering in which there's a certain theme that follows a certain color theme, and we're inviting hundreds of people to that gathering. We're spending $5, $10, maybe $15,000 on these gatherings because it's a simple graduation party for entertaining our guests and for appreciating all the hard efforts of our children. These are areas in which we need to be very, very careful because I realize that if we don't conduct these activities, what happens is people will come to us saying, "You are very dry, boring people. You are very rigid. You are the type of people that don't have fun in life. Why are you so serious?" That's become the trend of our society. But we need to be very cautious and very careful because when we get influenced by words like this from other people, we don't realize that this is the way that Shaitan is slowly entrapping us within his grasp. He wants us to have a downfall. He wants us to go to hell with him. Surah Fatir, verse number 6 says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, "Surely Shaitan is an enemy to you, so take or treat him as an enemy. He only invites the followers that they may become the dwellers of the blazing fire." So pretty much from this verse, Allah is giving us an awareness that Shaitan, he knows he's going to the fire and he wants to drag us with him. And he tries any tactic and any strategy possible in which he can drag us into the fire. The ultimate goal for him is to bring us into hell. So we need to be very aware of his tactics. We need to be consciously in remembrance of Allah. We need to continuously seek for Allah's forgiveness. We need to follow the ways that the Prophet ﷺ has told us and that Allah has told us, in which we can protect ourselves from falling within these different methods that Shaitan has to make us go in his direction. It says here, Ibn al-Qayyum said, "The remembrance of Allah represses the Shaitan. It puts him in distress and inflicts injuries upon him like the injuries whips inflict when used. This is why the Shaitan of the believer becomes weak and frail. This is because every time the Shaitan interferes with him, the believer releases upon his whips of remembrance, of turning towards Allah, of seeking forgiveness and obedience. Thus his Shaitan will be in a severe state of punishment. On the other hand, the Shaitan of the evildoer gets a lot stronger and arrogant due to him being in a state of leisure and gentleness. So whoever doesn't punish their shaitan in this world with his remembrance of Allah, his monotheism, his seeking forgiveness, and his obedience towards Allah, then they will be punished by their shaitan with the blazing fire in the hereafter. So there is no escape from whether you punish your shaitan or get punished by him. So we always need to use our du'as, use seeking Allah's forgiveness as a method to prevent us from falling within the tricks of treachery of shaitan. Also, remembering Allah's names, remembering Allah's qualities, being conscious of the different qualities of Allah, and trying to recite Allah's names when doing our du'as according to the particular du'a that we are doing will help us to combat the strategy of shaitan and make us stronger against his tricks. Now this leads me to my final point, which is through the remembrance and awareness of Allah can we fear Allah alone and not fear his creation. We have a tendency to worry a lot, and this is another trickery of shaitan, that we have a tendency of worrying a lot about what are others going to say? What is the culture going to say? What is the society going to say? We must not forget that if we are strong in our conviction with Allah, and if we prioritize the will of Allah, only then and then will we have true success in our life. If we try to follow the will of other people, we will have no success. If we try to follow the will of other people, we will never be able to please them. Allah is the one who's easy to please. Allah is the one that we need to fear. Allah is the one that we need to turn to constantly. So with that in mind, I wanted to share a personal story of mine in which just following the will of Allah had helped me and made me successful in life. When I was a young girl, I was around 16 years old. In my family, the culture or the way of the people of my family was that when we went outside, we would cover our hair fully with hijab or wear our jilbabs, and at times even wear niqab. But when within our family members, we would not be very strict about it. So if I was meeting a cousin who was not my mahram, or a particular uncle who was a cousin of any of my parents but was not my mahram, I would cover my hair in a way that part of my hair would be showing. And this was just a general trend of my family, and everyone followed this culture, and we all thought it was okay. One time my father, he sat down with me because he was amazing with his tarbiyah, and he said to me that when you go outside, what kind of hijab do you do? And I told him, I said, just I cover my hair and I wear my jilbab. And he goes, but when family members come within our household, what kind of hijab do you do? And he pointed to my hair. He said, you have half your hair opening. Then he questioned me. He said, is this something correct? And I looked at him and I thought, okay, I think it's fine. He said, are you sure that this is the right way to do hijab? So he gave me the book on Parda and the Status of Women in Islam by Maulana Madudi. And he said, read this book and then let me know what you think. When I read the book, alhamdulillah, it was an eye-opener because I realized the consequence of not doing proper hijab and the effect of it is on society. And the displeasure that I would face from Allah from not doing hijab. So I had decided I am going to start doing my hijab in a very strict fashion now. I remember the next trip I went to Pakistan, I had my hair fully covered, and a lot of family members were quite stunned with the way I covered my hair, and they said, you can take your jilbab off now. I didn't have it on. I said, no, I'm just having my hair fully covered. It was difficult because the trend of our family was to not cover that way, but the eventual result of that was that my cousins also found that to be the correct way to follow Islam, and they started covering themselves that way. And today, alhamdulillah, we are blessed with the fact that they still remain covered that way. A lot of aunts started covering properly, and now the children of my cousins also follow that way, which is the proper way of Islam. So in this situation, I felt that following the pleasure of Allah or following His ways and fearing Allah was more important than fearing the people around me. And that gave me a lot of blessings and a lot of benefit in my life. It changed the way of thinking of a lot of family members of mine, and it gave me a lot of respect amongst the family for the fact that I was actually following the will of Allah and I was fearing Allah. So, sisters, it's very important that in whatever we do in our life, whatever step we take, whatever action we take, whatever culture we follow, whatever ritual we follow, we truly need to fear Allah and follow His ways. Only then and then will Allah give us true blessings. And trust me, if we follow the way of Allah, you will gain respect from society. People will look at you in another way. And it's extremely important as a dawah point also, that if we follow the way of Allah, only then and then can we tell others about true Islam. So we need to fear Allah, we need to follow Allah, we need to not let other people's words or actions convince us to go in any other direction. So I would like to end with a hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari. It says here that Abu Huraira narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said, if Allah loves a person, He calls Jibreel saying, Allah loves so-and-so. O Jibreel, love him. Jibreel would love him and make an announcement amongst the inhabitants of the heaven. Allah loves so-and-so, therefore you should love him also. And so all the inhabitants of heaven would love him, and then he is granted the pleasure of the people on the earth. So if you follow and fear Allah, then you will gain the pleasure of Allah, and automatically you will gain the pleasure of the inhabitants on earth. May Allah make us capable of fearing Him, having taqwa of Him, and being more aware of Him, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.